Welcome to the 10-Minute Treasure. My name is Jeff Pospisil, and in this video, I'm going to talk about if your church is at risk of losing your 501c3 status. That's that tax-exempt status. That's what allows you to not have to pay federal income tax, as well as for donors to be able to give charitable contributions that they could write off on their own tax return. So let's go ahead and get right to it. So most of the time when I've talked to churches that bring up this concern, it's coming about because of three different reasons. One is maybe their church earned quite a bit of extra income in a year and they earned a profit and they think, well, are we really nonprofit if we made a profit this year? Well, that will not affect your 501c3 status. So that's good news. Or sometimes it's when they start delving into a different fundraising. So instead of just an offering, maybe they set up a food shack at the county fair or the state fair, or maybe they start a coffee shop. Well, good news, that most likely will not affect your 501c3 status. So it's probably very rare that that'll affect your 501c3 status. Last one is when maybe they start renting out their facility to other groups besides a church or another nonprofit, or even if it is a nonprofit, but you seem to be making quite a bit of money from that. Chances are that will also not affect your 501c3 status. Those last two, though, those may result in you paying some taxes. That's called unrelated business income tax, but that will not affect your status necessarily. But here is what could put your 501c3 status at risk. So the first one that might get you in trouble with the IRS for your 501c3 status is getting in the middle of a political campaign. First of all, I don't even think that this is a good idea for your ministry to get involved in politics to that deep, but you should never endorse a candidate or come out and speak directly against a candidate and saying, don't vote for so and so. You can encourage people to vote. You can encourage people to get educated on who they vote for, all that kind of stuff. You can have a voter registration thing, but you should not be picking political candidates. So if you don't want to risk your 501c3 status. The second one is your church should not be overly involved in lobbying for specific legislative issues. So that might be something like payday loans, or it might be, um, I don't know, there's the Defense of Marriage Act that's going through, or immigration, or whatever it happens to be. There's a bunch of issues that churches feel passionate about, but you should not be overly involved. And this is one of those rare instances that the IRS actually tells you what is overly involved or not. And if more than 20% of a church's expenses, the regular church's expenses, um, is spent on lobbying, then that's too much. So that's kind of your test. And chances are that's not going to happen. And I'm not totally for sure if that includes, like, let's just say your pastor was spending one day a week lobbying Congress to support something. Would that be substantial? Would they count that part of your pastor's salary towards those expenses? I'm not totally for sure, but chances are most churches would not put up with their pastor being gone all the time doing lobbying anyway. So, but that's also one if you're overly involved in lobbying. So 20% or 1/5 of your resources going towards lobbying, that is too much. And the last one is they call it private inurement. And what I mean is you're operating this as a way to earn money for the members or for the private individuals. So this is not, the pastor going out and trying to encourage giving so that the church could pay their bills, including the pastor's salary. But this would be like, let's just say our church did have an extra $10,000 left over at the end of the year. And then they decide to split that up among the board members or split that up among all the members, or whatever. That is the idea of inurement, that where you're operating it for a profit and anything else, you're basically distributing it like dividends. So that is also not something you should do because you will risk your 501c3 status that way. And this is the last one, and the IRS doesn't talk about this one so directly. It talks about mainly those other three, but this is the one where churches get nervous. And so, like, for example, a lot of churches, they might have a coffee shop or something. And a lot of times it's mainly for their own members, but other people could use it too if they wanted to. And they're really not offering it for a profit. But if ever that coffee shop starts becoming the primary purpose, so the priority of the coffee shop outweighs the priority of the mission of spreading scriptural holiness across the land, or whatever yours is, making disciples of Jesus Christ, something like that. If ever that purpose ends up becoming subordinate to the coffee shop, then you are at risk of losing your 501c3 status. So, and you would see that by eventually your coffee shop income being greater than your Sunday offering. That would be a sign. Or even if it's getting close to being half of your income, that might be a sign that you're mainly operating this church to serve coffee instead of serve the good news. So, and again, that is rarely the issue I see in most churches. They might be doing a handful of fundraisers to help close the gaps in their budget, but it rarely replaces they do that to support the work of the church. They don't operate the church in order to support the work of the coffee shop. So helps clear some things up. One of the things I used to joke about is, you know, let's just say, for example, a church did lose their tax exempt status. Most churches don't make much of a profit anyway. And especially if you could write off depreciation, most churches would operate in the red anyway. So they didn't have much of a concern there. Probably the bigger concern would be is if you had to start paying property taxes. That would kind of stink. But that's not the IRS. That's your local county office that you'd have to be talking to. And so anyway, just my thoughts. And all right, I hope you have a great week and a great weekend. God bless you.